Hey guys, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. This might be a little bit of a downer video. I don't know. Somber, maybe. I'm going to turn my light on here. There we go. Side note. I've noticed that it doesn't really matter how much time and effort I put into editing videos. It doesn't seem to really affect how the videos do. It has so much more to do with the topic. So we really want to be relevant with topics. If you have ideas for topics or particular videos that you like from a Sweetcast point of view, I would be interested to know what those are and what resonates with you. Let me know in the comments, because that is really, really helpful. I'm always looking for content and I want to improve, so it's great. All right, so New York Comic Con is going on right now. And as I look through some of the news articles, there's just so much news right now, which is strange because we went through a week, I guess. It's probably a big part of it is people are holding off on news until the convention, and that's when a lot of things are being announced. And so it was just interesting to see how dead news was as far as comics go, and now there's just way more. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. So this is kind of like a couple different stories put together, but they're important. They're also related. All right, so for all the pushback I see against anybody that says that the industry is in trouble and that things are going poorly, there's a lot of pushback for that. For all that pushback, there seemed to be some movement. Things are changing a little bit, and there's some effort being made to help comic shops or to help publishers, to help the industry in general. The more I think about it, I'm trying to be a realist here. It doesn't seem like a problem that more of the same is going to fix. So the first one I want to talk about, Lionforge. They opened up, the Bink Foundation to create the Forge Fund. So they joined with the Bink Foundation to start the Forge Fund. The Forge Fund, in a nutshell, it sounds like, it's basically a fund of money. They've put $100,000 in there so far, and it's going to be for comic shops that have gone through some kind of financial difficulty. It sounded like most of the examples that they had here in the video that they released during the convention basically directed at shops that were affected by natural disasters, something like that was just massive and would be out of their hands, though they did allude to medical situations or other things like that. Now, just like everything else, like any other kind of safety net, and they do call this a safety net, like anything else, those are probably the outlying examples. I don't know. I'd have to really look into the specifics and find out how you can apply for this grant. They called it a fund. It is definitely a grant that you'd have to write for and get some money if you're going through a hard time as a retailer. And I don't have a problem with charity in general. What I have a problem with is fixing the way that traditional retail for comics is already running. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more. I'm really curious to know your thoughts. I think comic shops are great. I enjoy comic shops. At the same time, things are changing, and there's a reason why it's so difficult. And a little story here, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I've spent a lot of time starting businesses over the years. And I remember I started one with my younger brother. We opened a little game store. We wanted to first start selling locally, through like classified sections, web pages and things like that. We wanted to try and do that kind of thing and get it out to people and go through social media. And it didn't work super well. It was sort of our way to test the waters. We bought what I've had learned is all the wrong products. We thought we could sell, but they were just bad ideas. It ended up costing us a little bit of money, and we didn't really make money back. And so it was pretty frustrating. It was a little bit straining perhaps on our relationship. We're all good now though. We really enjoy spending time together. But one thing we learned is that working in that kind of business, and game shops, comic shops are really not all that different. And in fact, much of the time they're one and the same thing. Something that I learned is that it's a very, very hard business to be in because the profit margins are so low. And it's also really difficult to just make a sale. They usually say if you're starting a business, it's best to sell the most expensive thing that you can, because all it takes is one sell in order for you to be making, profit. If you're selling really cheap things, then you have to sell a lot of them before you make profit. This is why I think a big part of the reason why comics have just gone up in price so much. The way that the comics system right now is set up, it's just not reaching that critical number of people that are able to purchase the comics, see the comics, get new readers, all this kind of stuff. Every single other business does this. Like, you have to be pulling in new customers. You have to have distribution to get it out to people. The problem is that the way that distribution in comic shops work now seems to be a little outdated. So I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon, that there's this fund created. A part of me thinks that's great. If somebody's hard up in a tough situation that's out of their control and they can get a little bit of help, that sounds nice. On the other hand, if business where they are at in general is just not working, if it doesn't make sense in the location that they're at, then throwing more money at the problem would not fix the problem. Now, all this is just, private kind of enterprise. It's not government funded or anything like that, as far as I know. And so, again, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but this is, to me, signaling that, we're right. We're not the only ones that are seeing that there's a problem. I just wish that it would have been addressed a little bit sooner. This is just one attempt from Lionforge. All right, and here's just the Bleeding Cool article on the same thing. I basically explained the whole thing, so we can move on to the next one. IDW Publishing. This is what you call burying a news item. So they made this announcement October 2nd. That was a couple days ago, and they made the announcement, and then the New York convention happened, and so all these other news stories came out. This is not really done on accident. This is something that happens quite frequently, especially with news that you don't necessarily want to draw a lot of attention to, but you obviously have to cycle it through. So those kinds of things would be done on a weekend very frequently, like on a Friday, late on a Friday, or before some kind of major event like this. Not sure how much IDW is intending to bury this, but it is an interesting news story. IDW Publishing has announced the hiring, and in some cases rehiring, of 5 individuals for key executive roles within the company in what is famed as a rebranding of the company's foundation. In an announcement that was sent out Wednesday, the San Diego publisher announced the addition of Tara McCrillis, Judd Myers, Anna Morrow, and the return of Rebecca Cahalan and Rosalind Moorhead. Quote, "It's been quite a year of change for IDW's publishing division, and we're incredibly happy with the key role within the organization being filled by some new and some well-missed faces." Quote continues, "We have rebuilt the foundation of the entire publishing company in an exciting way with knowledgeable experience and well-respected people in all of these roles. IDW has long been adept at making good books, and now we've stabilized the entire foundation for the next iteration of IDW's ongoing evolution as a publisher of premier comic books, graphic novels, art books, games, and more." There's just a saying that sales cure everything. In any business, no matter how bad things are, the solution for it is sales. You sell more. Obviously you can be in such dire circumstances that the sales that you're getting are not enough, to fix the problem. But if you had more sales, right, if you did have enough, then that would fix the problem. The point is, that's cash flow, sales. I don't want to pretend like IDW is innocent and they haven't done anything wrong or mishandled things. If that were true, they wouldn't be replacing or hiring all these new executives. However, this is a symptom of a larger problem, and that is that people are not buying comic books. There is a lack of sales. IDW is one that is getting hit the hardest, one of the biggest visible people that's being hit the hardest. DC Comics is also being hit. Marvel's being hit too. They just pretend like they're not. So if we kept every single comic shop from closing, let's pretend that we had enough money in a fund, this Forge fund, to keep every comic shop from closing, and that the year 2020 would be the year of no comic shops closing whatsoever. Would that solve the problem? Let's say that IDW had all of their debt paid off. Every penny was paid off. They were doing fine. They had their books and they started selling. Would that fix the problem? If Marvel made 15 variant covers for every single issue of every comic book, would that solve their problems? I'm being a little facetious here, but obviously not. And that's because what they're missing is the sales. They're missing the volume of sales that it takes to sell books even at this price, at $5 a comic book. They don't have enough sales to grow the industry back to, just a healthy level even. Now, a lot of these companies could cut back on the number of titles that they're publishing. They could focus on quality, get writers and artists that everybody is interested in backing, and put them on properties that historically do really well, and focus on what you have done best in your publishing company's history. That goes for everybody. You could do that, but does that still solve the problem? I think it'd go a long way to solving the problem, frankly. It would help quite a bit. I'm not positive that it would actually help comic shops. I'm not sure that it would help more readers buy books that weren't buying books before, that don't have a comic shop next to them. I'm not sure that would change anything. And that's because there's not a great mechanism for buying things online. Again, I love comic shops. I can see the person in the comment section right now. You hate comic shops, you want them to die. No. This is one of those things where there is reality sitting here, and there's got to be a way to adapt to it. I don't think that digital books is necessarily, they exist. People can get digital books already. I'm not sure that there's anything else you could really do there. But print books still sell. They still make up the majority of comic sales. And so how do you do that? Here's this article from Investopedia, which says a dozen or so companies Amazon is slaying this year. If I go back to my story of me and my younger brother starting this little business and trying to sell games, we were connected with a couple different distributors. There was even competition when it came to distributors. We were able to get product, and we were able to sell some of it, not enough of it. But the problem was that Amazon, they set the prices so low that the margins are so thin that you cannot compete. I enjoy going to local card shops, and I like to play MTG. They'll tell you the only thing that keeps them in business is Magic the Gathering. Pokemon probably sell well too. I know when we were selling things, we wish we would have just spent all the money on Pokemon cards, because those things actually sold. Everything else didn't make a lot of sense though. It was hard to drive interest in it. It was hard to keep demand up. It was hard to sell it at enough, profit that it made sense. You had to sell so many games to be close for what Amazon was selling them for. I remember talking to somebody on the phone. They asked that we had a game that they wanted. They said, hey, I can get it on Amazon for $1 more than you are charging for it. Why should I buy it from you? And I thought, you're kidding me. We're selling it cheaper. We undercut Amazon. We were earning like $1.50 on that game, this $50 game. We lowered the price $1 below Amazon so that we could beat their price, and the customer did not want to buy it. He chose to go with Amazon. Why? Because they would deliver it directly to his door. Amazon is changing things, and I thought about this a little bit, but it's really hitting, I guess, sooner than I thought. But UPS and FedEx are going to take a massive hit because Amazon has decided that they can just do without. They can do things another way. Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid, again, they're selling the same products. They're making it easier to get. They're selling them for cheaper prices, and it's just so convenient. Blue Apron, Macy's, Costco, even Etsy, for crying out loud. Homemade things, all of this, they've got a marketplace that is frankly superior. Foot Locker. Even these things I thought would never make sense to buy it online, buy it on Amazon, because you want to try on the shoes, make sure they fit. They've solved so many of these problems. Amazon bought Whole Foods. I didn't even know that was a thing. Amazon bought Whole Foods. Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble has been suffering for years. They're the only big book chain in existence, and they're still suffering because of Amazon. And it's been Amazon from the beginning, right? That's how they started. It was books. That was the main thing. What are local comic shops supposed to do? Now, I think there are definitely ways to compete, but I'm not sure that the big players right now in comics are prepared or willing to compete. A little bit of doom and gloom, I know. That was not the intent, but this is all important information that's going on. I want to see things get better. I've paid so much more money this year. I've spent so much more money on comic books this year, and the vast majority, I'll say 95% of that money went straight into Indiegogo and backing independent comics. I've backed 17 projects this year. 17. I never thought I would back that many crowdfunding projects because they always seem like a risk. But in comics, it's different. In indie comics, it's working different. People know how the system works, and there's just a lot of great books. Question is, would I have spent that much money at my local comic shop if I didn't spend it on Indiegogo? The sad truth is no. I might have spent a little bit more money. It's possible. A little bit more money at my local comic shop, but not 17 Indiegogo campaigns worth and counting. Got to do something. You got to make comics exciting, and you have to make it convenient. Essentially, I think that's what it boils down to. And while we're talking about crowdfunding comic books, this is Thrilling Comics, Murder and Mayhem. I am one of the writers on this book. I did a 24-page story in it, along with the legend, the myth, Chuck Dixon, who also wrote a story in here, and David Furr. Lots of great art by Preston Avacedo. If you've not backed this yet, I strongly recommend it. It is in the description below, and I promise you it'll be convenient. It'll be shipped directly to your door. So thanks very much. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, all that other stuff, and I'll talk to you next time.